Hi coaches, today I want to talk about what do you say when someone asks you, so what is it that you do? It's a great question and it was sent to me by Mark Huntington. Thanks Mark. It's a great question because I know I've thought about this before and I'm sure lots of you guys have come across this too. How do we really talk about what it is that we do? How can we get that across to people in a short space of time? Well, these are just my thoughts and I'm sure a lot of you guys will have your own thoughts, and I'm really curious to hear what other coaches do. Now, I've heard lots of tips about this over the years, and one of the tips that I really like was one that I heard from Rich Litvin. Now, what Rich Litvin says that he does when people ask, what do you do? Is he talks about projects that he's currently working on. And I really liked that idea and I still use it. And you might think, well, I don't really work on any projects. But I found that there's always things that we're working on, or maybe this is just me. So I know for me, I've got my podcast, I've got an event in November with Gabriela Maldonado, I've got this group, I've got my one-on-one clients, and there's things that we're always doing. And also if it's stuff that we're not doing, you might want to talk about things that you want to do. So I know there's people in this group who said, well, I'd really like to take this understanding into schools, or I'd really like to take this understanding into the prison population or into businesses. So we can talk about projects we're working on or projects we would like to work on to give people a bit more of a feel for what it is that we do day to day, because that's what people are really asking us. So that's one thing that you might want to do. The other thing that I like to think about is the fact that the words aren't really as important as I thought they were. I used to think it was really important to say the right words, and is life coach the right word, or does that put me into a group of people who are using a lot of techniques that I didn't want to be associated with? And what I found is I kind of played around with coach, transformational coach, life coach, and over times I've used different words, but the words are less important, I found, than actually who I am, what I'm being, how I'm being in the conversation with the person who's asking me the question, and actually what a conversation is about. So something that I've done is I've really tried to get into the world of the person who's asked me. And I know in the principles community people talk about meeting people where they're at. And so for me, I found it was less about me explaining what I do and more about finding out what's important to the person I'm talking to. Now, it's different for every person, but if I was talking to someone and they said, well, they were struggling with their teenage child, well, that's a really great way for me to go into talking about the principles and how that, and it might not even be the principles. I wouldn't necessarily say mind, thought and consciousness, but I might share something that's useful to the person for them to get a feel about what I do. Now, ultimately, the best way to do that is to give them a proper experience of coaching, but I understand in a social context that might not be possible. But I always try and find out where the person is at in their life and try and share something that could be immediately helpful to them. And I've got a great little story for myself which I share around anger and about how my view on anger changed, which is something I just keep in my back pocket. But I'm sure we've all got stories here of either clients or for ourselves that we could tell when people ask us that question. So I'm really curious about what other people say, what other people think. My view is talk about projects, talk about case histories with clients, talk about what you'd love to work in, and really it's important about who we're being, how we show up in that conversation, less about the words. But love to hear what you guys think. Have a great day.